there. Now, for a second day, protesters from the campaign group Extinction Rebellion have blocked roads in central London. They're promising 2 weeks of disruption in the capital, calling on the government to act against climate change. So far today, the Met has made 40 arrests, warning that policing these demos will cost millions and divert officers who should be tackling crime in the capital. Our Home Affairs correspondent, Catherine Carpenter, has put those concerns to one of the founders of Extinction Rebellion.
An added attraction for visitors to London today. Extinction Rebellion protesters blocking Whitehall. Former civil servant John was among those welcoming the publicity for his cause. You're being told by that tannoy over there that if you don't leave the road, you're going to be arrested. Are you prepared for that?
Yes, I am. I've always been a law-abiding citizen. This is not what I wanted in my life, to be arrested and spend an evening or a night in a police cell. That's not what I want, and my family would be horrified. But what can I do when so many lives are at risk?
But as another site was occupied in Covent Garden, buses were parked up, unable to move. Here I spoke to one of the founders of Extinction Rebellion, Dr. Gail Bradbrook, and I started by asking her why Extinction Rebellion keeps taking to the streets of London and causing such disruption.
There's a lot of literature out there about how change happens, and unfortunately a lot of the energy has to focus on the capital. When you do things like, there was a lot of protests at a fracking site in Blackpool. It had hardly any coverage. You have to come to the city, and that really impacts the Londoners, and we are really sorry about that. Obviously this is going to impact the local area, but I think the rest of London should be okay. Londoners have just experienced the floods. You've got a taste of what's coming with this crisis.
You say Londoners have just experienced floods. They've also just experienced COVID like the rest of the world. These businesses are trying to get back on their feet, and this isn't helpful.
I have a small business as well. I've been impacted by COVID, so I do understand what businesses are facing. But at the same time, we can't just say, you know, that's the model. We've got to crank the wheels of industry back up again. We actually have to think differently and organise differently.
What about the claims by the Metropolitan Police that this protest, these 2 weeks of protest, will cost millions of pounds? Previous Extinction Rebellion protests have cost £50 million, and that these officers are often being taken away from their boroughs and dealing with local problems there?
Well, actually there's a sort of overtime process whereby officers get brought in from other parts of the country, and in all honesty the police have got a statutory duty to uphold the right to protest. Democracy is just messy at times. You know, the police also have to police, you know, the London Marathon or sporting events. Or
this city has a huge problem at the moment with knife crime, for example. These officers should be on their boroughs, shouldn't they?
You know, the climate crisis, the trajectory we are on, leads to the collapse of civilization, right? So we are trying to prevent the violence that is down the line, not far down the line. You've seen a smell of it through the pandemic in terms of when people are fighting over goods in shops. That's what's coming.
For John, that did eventually mean arrest, and there are many others willing to follow in his footsteps. Catherine Carpenter, BBC London.
To something very different now.